41, 42 years ago. My uncle started a construction company, and they do wastewater, like lift stations. So, and a lot of my family has ended up working there. My dad, several of his brothers, not all of them, but, and then I have 3 brothers, and they all work there. And I grew up working there through high school and college, come back and do that. Where my girlfriends had like secretary jobs or inside air conditioned. My uncles and everyone decided it would be really fun to have me crawl down in sewer and, you know, all that. I kind of think most of the time that I had to get into it, it was just because they wanted to torture me and make me do it. But it made me a better person, maybe in some weird way. So I grew up doing that and running bids, and all through high school in the summer and college, and just being around it, going to job sites with Dad and them. Then when I went to A&M, I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist, and realized that science is not my forte. And so I ended up in construction. I worked in the office up there and got in with that group and really liked it. And my older brother was there at the time, and he was getting the same degree. And then my 2 younger brothers ended up getting the same degree. So Thanksgiving talk is rather boring, lots of construction. I think naturally it fit. Growing up, one of my favorite books was about like construction, and just kind of, I guess, being around it, it was in my blood. So when I graduated, I went into general contracting. So I did that for a little while. Knew I didn't want to do general contracting forever. It wasn't really my bag. And so got into concrete just through connections, which is kind of construction in itself, right? Everybody knows someone. And I found my way to TXI. That's where I met Robert, actually. But I first started out in our dispatch, and I worked there for a little over a year, I guess. And knowing that that's not where I wanted to end up. And then we went, from there I moved into sales. Did sales for maybe 4-ish years, 4.5 years. And then I moved back into dispatch as our dispatch manager. And then TXI was, Houston was acquired by Cemex. Stayed with them, I guess, for about 5 years. Did dispatch management for them, which got really interesting. I mean, that was during the boom, like coming off of the recession and everything. So it's like overnight the faucet came on in Houston, and we're running 300 and something trucks, and you know, no one can get in the schedule. It was just chaos constantly, but it was a lot of fun. And anyway, so worked with them with dispatch, and then I went to, then I moved into our value-added products. I did a lot of travel with that. I went all over the world, did like best practice sharing, and lots of conferences and stuff with, I mean, it's such a big company. So spent time in Israel, which was really cool, and in London and Paris and all that, just with them, like, and all over the US, traveling and talking about what we were doing in Houston. The construction industry in 15, 16 years, or I guess even longer than that since I got out of college, I feel like it's really changed. There have been very interesting times along the way. I had my fair share of, get that stupid girl off my job site, we don't want to see that, you know, whatever. And I also had my fair share of, hey, come, let me show you what we do, and let me teach you. And those are the relationships that I'm very thankful for. That, I mean, lots of really great people along the way that molded my knowledge and taught me so much more than I would have learned in college. But yeah, there was definitely some overcoming, and every now and then there still is. And to me, that's somewhat hilarious. I can just laugh about it. And I mean, I've been called everything in the book, especially when I was in dispatch. And I remember hanging up the phone and laughing, and it would be a few hours later, and usually those same guys would call back and, can I send you flowers? And I'm really sorry. I know, you're fine, it's, you know. But in some of those people ended up being my favorite customers, the ones that treated me the worst. And I remember one guy at TXI, he was one of our QC guys, and he and we got along. I mean, he had been a ranger in the Army, and he was just a real man's man. And he I think always kind of thought, why is this girl here, you know, kind of thing. But then he realized at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd go stand beside him and make cylinders, and it was fine, you know. And so when he left, because he left, I guess, before the transition or whatever, I remember him calling and being like, hey, you know what? I never thought you should have been there, but at the end of the day, you didn't mind getting dirty. I don't know, getting in there and learning and being a part of it. I also remember one job site I was on, I got stung by a wasp. I don't know, flying things like to sting me often. So I'm standing in the middle of a large building and we're pumping concrete, standing by the pump and talking to one of our drivers. Some wasp flies up and just stings me out of nowhere. And he didn't miss a beat. He grabbed my arm and spit his tobacco right on my arm. He's like, that'll help. And it did, but you know, so just being a part of that is just always stuff that you can just laugh about. Like, oh, I've been spit on. That was an interesting day at work. But so I'm a huge Dolly Parton fan. I mean, that's to throw it out there. And I mean, obviously I think her music's fun and exciting, but her as a person is someone I've always admired. How she's just going to be out there. She's going to do her own thing, and she's not doing it for anyone else. She's doing it for herself. But at the same time, she's a very good person, that she loves other people and wants the best for other people. I definitely have always valued how she just puts herself out there, and she's going to be who she's going to be, and take it or leave it, and she's going to do things her way, and if it doesn't work out, she'll fix it, kind of thing. And so that is my take on women in construction. I mean, if it's something that you're passionate about or something you're knowledgeable about or whatever, then I think that you can find your way there if you're there for the right reasons. A hard hat and a vest never look good on a woman, but somehow we make it work. I've been at Foran Concrete now for 5 years. Right after I came, I guess probably, I don't know, a year or so after I came here, one of my old super bosses or whatever at Cemex, I was talking to him and we were talking about drivers, and I was like, you know, our guys are so different than our Cemex guys because they actually have a lot of pride in not only what they do, but how they do it. And they all put their best foot forward, even on those really hot summer days that I can't imagine how long their days are, and but how appreciative I am of that they still get up every day and go do it. And like this summer with RL carriers, a lot of times that was back-to-back days of crazy early hours and late afternoons, and it didn't get any cooler, you know, and just how the guys did that. I'm also, you know, we're doing the job here in Bastrop, the TxDOT job, and that's been great. They've really stepped up with the nitrogen plant. I've never worked with the nitrogen plant. We've always used ice, and Aaron and all of Bastrop plant and all of them have really embraced that. So we don't have as many issues with temperature that we could have because they took ownership in it, and that's so important. That's hard to, you can't make someone take ownership. You can give them the ability to, but and you can back them up, but across the board, you've seen them all step up and do what they need to do. The amount of pride that they have in what they do is exceptional.